AITA for leaving my wife who abandoned us for 6 years, but still expected me to wait. My name is Jake. I am a man, and my ex-wife Amanda, a woman, and I have known each other for 11 years. We met in high school. She was my first in everything. We got married after graduation thinking we would figure out life together. But in reality, Amanda had a completely different idea of what figuring out life meant. At first, everything was fine. We had 2 amazing kids, a boy and a girl, and I thought our relationship was solid. Of course, Amanda had always liked nice things, but I told myself it was her way of wanting the best for us. That is what we do, right? We justify things for the people we love. But at some point, it was no longer about us. It became about her. Then I started noticing changes in Amanda little by little. She started hanging out with a new group of upscale moms from the kids' school. You know the type, always dressed in designer clothes, always talking about vacations in Hawaii or the Caribbean. At first, I thought to myself, okay, cool, she is making friends. But then it got weird. Suddenly, she was saying we needed a nicer SUV, trendy outfits for the kids, and bags that cost more than our monthly mortgage payment. Initially, I thought it was her way of showing love or wanting to raise our standard of living. But after the 5th designer bag in our closet, I thought to myself, what is this madness? It is a phase or some kind of shopping addiction. Things started to spiral out of control quickly. The mortgage was late more than once and credit card bills were piling up. Every time I tried to have a real discussion with her, she would brush me off. She would say, "You do not understand. I am doing this for us." Or, "You do not know what it takes to fit in as a mom these days." Excuse me? Since when does being a mom mean living like that? It was not just the spending. It was her attitude. It seemed like she was more focused on keeping up with her group than keeping our family afloat. I was at the point where I would come home from a 10-hour shift exhausted, and instead of a quiet moment, there would be another delivery box or a shopping bag full of things we did not need. I was struggling to pay the mortgage, and every conversation with her was like hitting a wall. I would tell her, "Amanda, you have to stop this. We cannot live like this." She would roll her eyes and say, "Do you not want your family to have nice things?" Or give some other excuse about appearances. And then it got worse. Work slowed down. My hours were cut. Money was tight, and I was desperately trying to keep the lights on. I tried again to talk to Amanda so she would slow down, but she acted like it was not her problem. "Do you not want us to enjoy life?" she would throw at me. Obviously, I wanted us to enjoy life. But how are we supposed to enjoy anything when we cannot even cover our basic needs anymore? I was not asking for the moon, just for her to ease up on the unnecessary spending at least while we were struggling. I felt like I was carrying the world on my shoulders. No support, no understanding, just her adding even more pressure. I thought she would eventually pull herself together, that we would face the storm together. That is what partners do, right? Well, no. Then one night, the infamous night, I woke up and realized Amanda was not next to me. My first thought was that she went for a midnight snack. My second thought was that maybe she finally got her crazy urge to go explore the world at 3 in the morning that she always joked about. Well, it was not a joke. The house was completely silent. No lights, no noise, just me in the dark. And then I saw it, a piece of folded paper on her pillow. I stared at it for a moment, as if it would explain the situation all by itself. My heart was racing. I opened it, and the first line read, "I need to do this for me." She wrote that I was holding her back from growing, that she had met someone who could help her explore the world, and that it was something she had always wanted to do. She said she was sorry for hurting me and the kids, but that sometimes you have to leave behind the things that keep you small. And then the sentence that finished me off, "I will be back in a few years. By that time, I will have lived the life I always dreamed of, and we can pick up where we left off." I read it over and over trying to understand. She was leaving us, me and our kids, for another guy, for a fantasy of a luxurious life. A few years, pick up where we left off, as if our lives were a movie that we could just put on pause while waiting for her return. I could not breathe anymore. My hands were shaking as I reread the letter, as if I could convince myself that it was not real. But it was. Amanda was gone. She had left us. I started calling her, but her phone went straight to voicemail. I called back again and again, nothing. I woke up the kids. I do not even know why. Maybe I thought that if they called, she would answer. But no, they tried too, and everything went to voicemail. My son, who was 12 years old at the time, looked at me with eyes full of confusion and asked, "Did Mom leave? Did something happen to her?" And my daughter, who was only 8 years old, asked, "Is Mom in heaven?" That question hit me right in the heart. I did not know what to say. How do you explain to these kids that their mother simply decided to leave? I ended up stammering that she was going away for a while, but none of it sounded right. I kept calling every few minutes. I picked up my phone over and over hoping she would answer and tell me it was a bad joke. But I kept getting her recorded voice. When morning came, reality set in. Amanda was gone, and she was not coming back. Not anytime soon. Either way, I had 2 kids who needed me, and I had no idea how to explain to them that their mother had decided we were not enough. That note was a turning point. At that moment, I was no longer a husband. I was something else. A father who had to keep his family standing, even when the person who was supposed to be my partner had decided we were not worth sticking around for. It is crazy how a simple piece of paper can turn everything upside down. From that night on, everything became a blur. I would wake up, look at the empty space in bed, and wonder if it was not a nightmare. The first few months were really difficult. I was trying to juggle work, bills, and 2 kids to raise on my own. Before, I had someone to help me, even if Amanda was not exactly a very present mother. Now it was just me. Preparing meals, driving the kids to school, homework, cleaning. I felt like I was drowning. I would fall into bed every night completely drained just to wake up and start all over again. Money was tight. Amanda's spending had emptied our accounts, and with my single salary, I felt like I was always one step away from the edge. Every little expense became a crisis. I was sitting there wondering how I was going to get through this. I almost gave up, but my kids were counting on me. So I decided to pull myself together. Enough complaining, time for action. I cut out everything that was not essential. If it did not pay the bills or buy food, it was gone. And I started working like crazy. Over time, side gigs. In the evenings, I took whatever I could. The nights I should have been sleeping, I was working. It was hard. There were moments when I thought I would collapse, but little by little, it paid off. I sold everything we did not need. That overpriced coffee machine Amanda absolutely wanted, sold. The treadmill that served as a coat rack, out. And honestly, it felt good, like I was taking back control. At home, I made sure the kids did not lack anything. I cooked. I bought them secondhand clothes. We went on simple outings, to the park, a movie, board games. Dylan and Sadie, they were stronger than I thought. Of course, they missed their mother and bedtimes were complicated, but they adapted. One night, about 6 months after Amanda left, Dylan came into my room with a picture of her. He handed it to me and asked, "Do you think she will come back one day?" That question pierced right through me. I looked at the picture. Back then, life seemed so simple, like we were just a happy little family. I wanted to tell him she would come back, that everything would go back to normal, but I could not lie to him. "I do not know, big guy," I answered. "But no matter what, I am here. We will get through this." With time, things started to change. Not that life got easier, far from it, but it became more manageable. I was no longer drowning. No more surprise shopping trips, no more arguing about money. For the first time in years, I felt like I could breathe, and it was not just about the money. I was starting to feel like myself again. I was proud of how far I had come, of everything I had managed to rebuild after our life collapsed. I was no longer just surviving. I was standing tall, stronger than before. And even though I never imagined doing all this alone, I was proving that I was capable of it. After a year, I realized something. I did not miss her. I was nostalgic for the idea I had of her. Yes, but the person who had left that letter, I did not recognize her anymore. That is when I understood I had to stop dragging this weight behind me. When Amanda left, I told myself there is no manual for this. Actually, the manual is called a lawyer. I explained the situation and filed for divorce. And honestly, it was strangely liberating, like unsubscribing from a newsletter you never signed up for. Since Amanda was nowhere to be found, the process was straightforward. The court handled service by publication, and it moved forward as a default judgment. It was not what I wanted initially, but it was what had to be done. I sold the house, a place that felt more and more like a museum filled with difficult memories, and moved to a smaller 2-bedroom home in a quieter suburb. Amanda had always hated the idea of living somewhere less fancy, but I did not care. I was done living for her. Our new place was nothing extraordinary, just a modest two-bedroom house on the edge of town. But it felt like a fresh start, and the kids adapted to it faster than I could have imagined. 3 years later, Amanda had become a distant memory. For me, anyway. For Dylan and Sadie, it took a little longer. There were still moments when they asked me a few questions about her, but they no longer expected answers. It was as if they had understood in their own way that she was not coming back. Life had returned to a certain normality. Even if it was not the one I had imagined, I had my routines, and I started noticing something strange around that time. Freedom. Not the kind of freedom where you go off and do whatever you want, but a quiet freedom. Without Amanda emptying the account or filling the house with her demands, I finally had room to breathe. I was no longer living day to day, and I could even save a little. Without Amanda's constant chaos, I realized how much lighter life could be. I was no longer forced to walk on eggshells around her moods, run away from her spending trips, or try to keep up with her constant need for more. Dylan and Sadie felt it too. They smiled more, laughed more. Seeing them thrive made me realize that Amanda leaving was not the tragedy I had thought it was. It was the reboot we did not know we needed. And I had changed, too. I was no longer the man I was when Amanda left. I was sharper, more confident, more focused. A year after the divorce, I started thinking about the future differently. Not a future of the if Amanda comes back kind, no. A future where I was no longer looking over my shoulder waiting for the next disaster. I wanted to give my kids stability, maybe even rebuild a family. When I got on dating apps, creating a profile, swiping, messaging, I quickly noticed that women were contacting me, looking to chat, trying to get my attention. But I was not chasing anything. I was not looking for someone to complete me or fill a void. I wanted a partner who could keep up with my pace, someone who understood my priorities and shared my energy. But I wanted neither a quick fix nor a dramatic romance. I wanted someone who fit into the life I had built, someone who understood where I came from and did not try to change me. Eventually, I reconnected with a woman from the local bookstore. Her name was Allison, and she was everything Amanda was not. Down to earth, kind, and completely uninterested in flashy things. She did not care about appearances or keeping up with anyone. What she loved was books, her dog, and being herself. We started out as friends, talking about everything from parenting to our favorite books. I was cautious. I did not want to rush into things, but over time, something clicked. Allison became that person I looked forward to seeing, the one I could be myself around without feeling judged. For Dylan and Sadie, it was a little period of adjustment. They were hesitant at first, but Allison never forced anything. She let them come to her at their own pace, and that is exactly what happened when we officially started dating. They adored her. I did not rush things. It was not about replacing Amanda or erasing the past. It was about building something new, something better. Looking back, that period of my life was a turning point. I went from surviving to actually living. And even though Allison played a part, it was not about her. It was about leaving Amanda's shadow behind me. The freedom I had found was not just financial or emotional. It was the freedom to imagine a life where I was no longer defined by Amanda's choices. A life where I could make my own. Then one afternoon, my phone rang. I was not even going to answer because I did not recognize the number. But something pushed me to pick up. When I saw the caller ID, I froze. It was Amanda. For a second, I just stared at the screen as if it were going to explode. I had not heard from her in 6 years. Not a call, not a message, nothing. And now, all of a sudden, she was calling me. A part of me wanted to ignore it, but we still shared kids. So I answered. As soon as I said, "Hello," she went into a total panic. "Jake, what is going on? Who are these people in our house?" she asked loudly. At first, I did not understand anything. "What house?" I asked. "Our house," she snapped back, as if it were obvious. I came back, and there are strangers living in it. That is when I figured it out. She was talking about the old house, the one I had sold years ago after the divorce. I could not help it. I almost laughed. "Amanda, we do not own that house anymore. It was sold years ago. It is their house now." She went quiet for a second and then started raising her voice again. "Why would you sell our house without telling me? You had no right." I felt my blood boiling, but I kept my cool. "There is no our anymore. Amanda, you left. You left us behind without looking back. I did not owe you anything." She was demanding to know why I had sold the house without her permission. I was not going to let her guilt trip me. So I just said, "You were not there, Amanda, you left. I owe you nothing." That calmed her down for 2 seconds. Then, she let out a huge dramatic sigh as if she were the victim. Then she said, "Fine, give me your address. I need to come home to see my husband and my kids." I burst out laughing without trying to hold back. "Amanda," I said, "we are no longer yours. I got remarried. My wife and I, along with the kids, have moved on. You do not have a home here anymore." She stayed silent for a moment, and I could almost hear the gears turning in her head. Then out of nowhere, she laid this on me. "So you were telling me you cheated on me?" I was speechless. "Cheated? Seriously? Amanda, you left us. You left a letter, and you disappeared for 6 years. You do not get a say in this. You left your family." She completely lost control. She was saying I was heartless and that I had ruined her life. I stayed calm and told her the truth, even though I knew she would not want to hear it. "Amanda, you are the one who ruined everything. In 6 years, we had to rebuild everything, and we realized we did not need you anymore. You made that decision the day you left." Amanda. She insisted that I had no right to move forward without her, as if she were entitled to pick up our life exactly where she left it whenever she felt like it. Then, and I am not joking, she said, "What is your address? I need to come teach you a lesson." I could not help myself. I let out a dry laugh. "Teach me a lesson. Amanda, are you serious right now? You have a lot of nerve." She replied immediately. "You sell our house? You move on? Do you think you can just erase me like that?" "Erase you?" I said, trying to stay calm. "Amanda, you erased yourself the day you left us. Do you really think you can reappear after 6 years and start giving orders again?" "I am your wife," she almost shouted. "You were," I corrected. I admit it. I was playing with her nerves a little, and I liked it. "You were my wife. All of that ended the day you left. Now, I have a new wife, and the kids and I have moved on. You cannot just show up and start over as if nothing happened." She sneered. "Oh, so you think all of this is normal? That I am going to stand by and watch while you destroy everything? Give me your address. Or are you too much of a coward?" I finally said, "Amanda, I will not give you my address. It is no longer your home. We owe you nothing. You are going to regret this," she spat. "I promise you." Then she hung up as if she had just won something. In reality, I was just relieved that the call was over. I stood there for a moment staring at my phone. Seriously, what was she thinking? 6 years she was gone, left us, and now she thought she could come back and act like nothing had changed. Unbelievable. I called Dylan and Sadie into the living room and had them sit down. I told them their mother had called and asked them if they wanted to have a relationship with her. I wanted to give them the choice. It was not up to me to decide for them. Their reaction was immediate. Dylan shook his head. "No way. She left us." "Dad, why would I want to talk to her now?" Sadie just looked at me and asked, "Do we have to?" I told them they did not have to do anything. I could see the relief on their faces, and it struck me. Amanda's absence had shaped them. She was no longer the mother they remembered, just a stranger. But Amanda was not the type to let go. A few days later, I received a call from one of her relatives. Her cousin, I think. He told me that Amanda was furious and that she was planning to come back to town. I did not know what she really wanted, but it did not matter at all. She was not going to worm her way back into our lives as if nothing had happened. The problem is that Amanda had this incredible ability to twist reality to make it fit her narrative. In her mind, she was not the one who had left her family. No, she was the victim, the one who had been betrayed. But that was no longer my problem. I had a new life, a life I refused to compromise for her drama. With Amanda back in the picture, everything became chaotic again, as if 6 years of silence were not enough. After our call, I thought she would understand that she was not welcome and that she would leave us alone. But no, Amanda doubled down. She started calling and texting nonstop, leaving endless voicemails where she said I had betrayed her and that she deserved to be back in our lives. At first, I ignored her, but it got worse. She even called while I was at work. I answered, tired of her interruptions. "Do you think you can replace me?" she asked loudly as soon as I said hello. "Amanda, what do you want?" I asked, trying to stay calm. "What I want is my family back. You had no right to move on. We were supposed to pick up where we left off." I was outraged. "Pick up where we left off? Amanda, you left us. You left a letter. You disappeared, and you never looked back for 6 years. You cannot just show up now and act like nothing happened. She scoffed as if I were the irrational one. I told you I would come back. You should have waited for me. That is what families do. They stick together. Families do not leave each other either, I retorted. You did not care about us when you left. So, you have no right to demand anything now. That is when she started accusing me of everything. She said I was trying to erase her, that I had manipulated the kids against her, that I had cheated on her by getting remarried. She even had the audacity to say, I hope your new wife knows she is living in my shadow. I hung up after that. There was no point in continuing the conversation. But she did not stop. She started spreading rumors in her family, saying I had stolen her house and was keeping her from seeing the kids. Fortunately, nobody really believed her. Then came the legal threats. She claimed we were still married and said she was going to have my marriage to Allison annulled. Unbelievable, right? She thought she could play some sort of reverse card because reality did not fit her story. Apparently, she believed the divorce did not count since she had not been there to contest it. I burst out laughing when I heard that. As if she could disappear for 6 years, come back, and declare everything null and void. She acted as if the world had stopped during her absence, as if everything was waiting for her, intact, ready to pick up where she left off. Her approach was so out of touch, but in reality, that is not how it works. Not life, and not the law. I had all the documents proving the divorce had been finalized, and she had been notified through every possible legal channel at the time. But ignoring reality was her specialty. She threw around big legal terms as if she had a solid case, when in truth, she had no grounds at all. She had left us. Period. Allison and I talked about it, and honestly, we were not worried. Just annoyed. These threats were more of a tantrum than anything else, but they were no less of a pain. I had my lawyer send a firm message, reminding her that the divorce had been completely legal for years and that she had no rights to my life or my family. I thought that would calm her down, but Amanda was not the type to leave quietly. That is when she flipped into complete overdrive. When she realized I was no longer answering, she turned her attention to Allison. She had managed, do not even ask me how, to get her number, and she sent her a long series of messages. Things like, do you think you can take my place? You will never be their real mother. You are nothing to them. Or, Jake is mine. You will never change that. Do not think for a second that this is over. I was furious. Seriously, who does that? Allison had not asked for any of this. But Amanda did not stop there. She started spreading rumors about Allison around town, saying she had broken up our marriage. A joke, quite frankly, but it still upset me. The next day, I went straight to my lawyer to file for a restraining order. Amanda had officially crossed every line. Of course, she did not accept it easily. She kept trying to cause chaos, but at least the order gave me a legal way to keep her at bay. When her attempts to get back into our lives finally failed, I was drained, and I cut everything off. Then one day, nothing. The calls stopped, the texts too. Maybe she finally got the message, or maybe she moved on to her next target. It does not matter. That silence was a relief. For the first time in a long time, I no longer had her constant chaos in my life. I could focus solely on my family and on what we had built. It felt like a massive weight had been lifted, a reminder that she no longer had any power over me. A few months later, life was finally peaceful. I was thriving at work. The kids were doing great, and Allison and I had built a life I was proud of. It was at a business networking dinner, one of those formal events where you shake hands, make small talk, and hope the food is edible. I had been invited as the guest of honor for a project I had managed. Everything was going great until she arrived. Amanda. At first, I thought my eyes were playing tricks on me. She was there, dressed like she was going to a gala, clinging to my boss's arm. My heart sank. Of all the places she could have reappeared, why here? I did not know yet if she had seen me. So, I kept my professional and polite calm. But of course, Amanda was never a fan of discretion. As soon as her eyes met mine, she froze, then plastered a fake smile on her face as if she had not left me and the kids for 6 years. She walked toward me, dragging my boss behind her, and started overdoing it. Jake. Wow. I had no idea you would be here. Her voice was dripping with an agonizingly fake enthusiasm. I did not say anything. I just nodded politely and turned back to my conversation. She did not like that. Are you not going to introduce me? She asked loudly, clearly trying to draw attention. I still did not take the bait. Instead, I excused myself, grabbed my jacket, and headed for the exit. That is when it happened. Amanda caused a loud scene. Seriously, you were just going to walk away like that? She was raising her voice so loudly that half the room turned around. Do you think you can erase me from your life, Jake? I am your life. Her outburst was so loud that I stopped dead in my tracks. For a moment, I considered answering her, putting her in her place in front of everyone. But looking around me, my boss, my colleagues, strangers, I realized it was not worth it. So, I turned to her and said calmly, Amanda, this is neither the time nor the place. You need to leave. She then launched into an incoherent monologue, saying that I had ruined her life, that I had stolen her family, that she deserved better. It was embarrassing, honestly. I could feel everyone staring at us, but I refused to stoop to her level. I just shook my head, turned around, and left the room. That night, sitting at home with Allison and the kids, I realized how much I had changed. Amanda's outburst had not even fazed me. It was just noise. The life I had now, the family I had rebuilt, that was all that mattered. Allison asked me what had happened at the dinner. When I told her, she laughed. Sounds like she has not changed. No, I replied with a smile. But I have, because it is the truth. I am no longer the man Amanda left behind. I have grown. I have built something real, something solid. And the best part of it all is that I have a family like Amanda will never have, a real one. Amanda's return was chaotic, sure, but it reminded me of something important. I am done with the past. My focus is on the people who truly matter, the ones who have been there every step of the way. And let me tell you, life has never been better. Thank you for sticking with me, friends. This journey has been a bumpy ride, but I am proud of where we ended up. Here is to new beginnings. Comment. I just want to say that stories like this always remind me how important it is to protect your peace. I've learned that setting healthy boundaries is actually an act of self-respect. When someone chooses to walk away, you have every right to rebuild your life without guilt. Taking responsibility for your healing and your family's well-being shows real strength. Choosing kindness toward yourself, especially after hard times, can change everything. I hope you take a quiet moment today to reflect on the relationships in your life and what kind of peace you truly deserve. Remember that moving forward is not betrayal, but growth. You are allowed to create a stable, loving home with the people who choose to stay. Thank you for watching and reflecting with me. I believe we all have the strength to choose a calmer and better chapter for ourselves. If you like the stories, don't forget to leave a comment and support the channel by subscribing. See you in the upcoming stories.